Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second discussion on the topic of female perspectives in contemporary playwriting. Tonight, our session will take place in English. We have with us three of the authors who were supposed to be tonight with us in Vienna, and one of the translators of the texts that were selected for this project. So our whole project was supposed to be a symposium which wanted to bring together authors, international authors, female playwrights, with the idea of talking about and creating a space where we can talk and safely engage and joke and share some of our experience of life and work. And unfortunately, this was not possible. And also, unfortunately, the readings were not possible, but the texts are translated. They should have been, as I said, lectured tonight. But I'm in this situation, I'm very, very happy to be here with you, and hope that we will have a short but nice discussion on the topics that interest us all. Our discussion tonight will focus on questions that from a questionnaire that I wrote and developed during the preparation of the project with the help of the authors. Also, and I made a selection for tonight, so we will hear questions and answers on the topics such as writing projects and writing routines, networking, personal life and work, money, and future plans. I will start with the introduction of the guests. Firstly, maybe just to say something about myself. My name is Alexandra Pâzgu. I am an author and a dramaturg, born in Romania, and have been living in the last 6 years in Vienna. And my guests tonight are, Anna Wakulik. Anna was born in Gdansk in Poland, graduated from Playwriting School of Theater in Warsaw and at the Institute of Polish Culture at the University of Warsaw. In 2017, Warsaw. In 2017 until 2020, she was a dramaturg associated with Theatermacherinnen in Warsaw. She worked as a literary manager, press secretary, and taught creative writing also. She earned several awards and nominations and was a finalist for the Gnia Dramaturgy Award multiple times. Hello, Anna.
Hi.
Then Michaela Zakutanska is considered as an author with an original style and uncompromising but humorous view of the contemporary world in a social context. She's a co-founder of the Pazgu National Theatre in 2013 and is currently focusing mainly on theater, internet series, and radio drama creation. The spontaneity of Pazgu nature, essential intellectual punk, and contemporary language creates original generational statements from her texts. Hello, Michaela. Then Miriam Untertiner, she was born in 1994 in Italy and lives in Austria and Italy. She studied German language and literature as well as philosophy. She's a member of the Südtiroler Autorinnen und Autorenvereinigung and the Autorinnendaseins and the summer school South Tyrol for dramatic writing. Before she started writing, she was a handball player and played at national level in Italy. In her writing, Miriam is focusing on identity policy and its influence in everyday life. She writes short fiction and plays. And with her play, Der Mann, der im Brunnen saß und da lag und da war, she was nominated for the Retzhofer Drama Prize 2021. Hello, Miriam. And last but not least, we have Agnieszka Birsak.
You're doing great.
We will call Aga. On her wish. She is born and raised and educated in Warsaw, Poland, and at some point in her life, Agnieszka Aga decided she was going to live in Vienna, at least temporarily. Austria has now been her home for several years, and it doesn't look that it's going to change soon, which we're very happy about. She studied translation at Warsaw University and literary translations at the Vienna University. And she translated, Aga, you translated the text, Anna's text.
Yes.
Elizabeth H.
Yes.
We will get right to this project also. I would start with a general question for everyone. I wanted to ask you where you are right now and what the atmosphere in your city is. I thought of, for purposes of organization, that I will call who will say when, what, no, just who. And I thought now Miriam, Michaela, Anna, and Aga maybe.
Okay, so I will start. At the moment, I'm in Vienna. The last weeks I was in Italy, and the atmosphere is, I think, a bit strange because now we have the second lockdown, but it's a different lockdown like the first. I mean, there are a lot of people out there in the streets, and I would say that we don't know what's happening right now because we have a lot of COVID stuff going on, like every other country also, and so we are basically waiting. I think that's the atmosphere we are in it.
Michaela?
I am at home in a small village in east of Slovakia, and atmosphere here is probably same as in other places in Europe and in the world. And we have one big paradox because they were testing us for 3 or 4 weeks here in Slovakia with antigen tests, and who didn't go for that test couldn't live a normal life, couldn't go to work or to school. But now they are opening theaters. From this week, everything else is closed, only shops and theaters and churches will be open. So it's good for theater makers, but otherwise we have also kind of lockdown.
Thank you. Anna, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. So I'm in Warsaw right now. And well, we have this kind of lockdown as well, but we also have, let's say, a little revolution in Poland, in Warsaw, because we, like a month ago, the protests started, and the protests about an abortion law in Poland. And I think it's changing right now. So the protests are being more anti-governmental right now. And yesterday, we have this lockdown, but people are on the streets. They are showing what they wish to change. And so coronavirus is spreading on the streets right now. But we did this. It's an interesting contradiction that we have this lockdown and people are also going out. So that's what's happening in Warsaw right now. Not only in Warsaw, in many cities, in many towns as well, smaller ones, which was surprising for us, because mostly those protests which were happening from time to time were based in Warsaw, sometimes in Wrocław, in bigger cities, but now it like spreads all over the country.
We also had a protest in Vienna, so
yeah,
other cities of Europe.
Mm-hmm. I'm finished, so it's your turn. You can.
Well, I won't really contribute much, I guess, because I'm in Vienna too. So I guess 2 of my predecessors, so I can't really say much else apart from what has been said already. We're in a complete lockdown, even though since I also work as a court interpreter, I do have a lot of work right now because the court hearings are still there, and the courts have not gone into lockdown. So for me, not much has changed really.
which is a very nice bridge to the next question, like what are your current projects? And maybe here we can start with, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. It's just my ears are way too small for all kinds of headsets.
Maybe you can start with telling us about your work, and because I understand, so you told us that you work both, so in you do legal translations and also literary translation, and maybe you can tell us something about how these things go together, and then maybe in connection make the link also to your project with your translation of Anna's text.
Sure. Yeah, so right now, unfortunately, I'm only working on the legal stuff because it is just so much that I don't really have time for anything else. But I always appreciate all the literary projects very much, because it's just such a good balance, because with legal text, it's all about precision. So you need to be careful about every word that you choose. And there is no room for interpretation, because I'm just not there to interpret stuff. So if it's ambiguous, then I need to make it just as ambiguous in my target document. And so it's, of course, it's also exhausting, but it's also exciting. And with, well, let's say literary, I mean, I think theater in general is just completely different, because you don't only focus, of course, on words. You focus on the message in general. You focus on, you know, like how people speak, and you just try to make people speak similarly in a different language. So you can't just stick to the words that are there. You need to choose to have more freedom. And of course, there is a rhythm. As you can imagine, legal texts have no rhythm. They have something what I call anti-rhythm. And in theater, it's very important to read aloud too what you've written, because it needs to, you know, just sound and not only look good on the paper. Yeah, so I do like this balance very much, to like forget about the other aspects of it, juggling.
What I wanted to ask you about your literary work is, how did you find together, you and Anna? Because I understand you have, this is not your first translation of one of
No, but actually it's not us finding each other, it's Wiener Wortstaetten finding both of us, I guess. Anna, I don't know if you would agree.
And how do you feel, Anna, about your text? Your text won in 2011 playwriting contest at Theater Übersetzerin. Übersetzerin. Could you tell us? So I wanted that you tell us something about your text and what the context was, and yeah.
So I was first
about, and then I would also want to know, in relation to translation.
We lost you, Alexandra.
After it was written, and I was curious, as an author, how do you feel about having your work translated in different countries, and then does this change something for you, or for how you perceive the text, or for the writing? You have the word.
Well, I think, well, the first thing is that I was surprised by that Wiener Wortstaetten chose this text, because it wasn't, well, it was done several times by some little theater companies in Poland, but it wasn't translated to, and I didn't, actually, I must tell you, because this competition in Teatr Wybrzeże was launched because Jan Hevelius, the Agnieszka, help me. Not astrologer, but
astrologist, right?
Astrologist.
Yeah. So he was famous in. He was from Gdańsk, and from my hometown, and he was quite famous figure. So you were, reading about him at school, and that's why Teatr Wybrzeże wanted to have new plays about him. And I wrote it. I tried to cope with this subject of, well, you have this figure given, and now what can you add to it? How your story, your subject, your themes can be somehow shown by this figure. So I wrote about this person's wife, Elżbieta, who was as well this astronomer and
astrologist.
I'm afraid I'm going to talk about him as about this horoscope maker, which I would avoid. And she was very well. She did basically the same amount of work as he did. But of course, well, she was a teenager when she married him, and I was trying just to focus on this this path of woman who's in the shadow somehow of the career of her husband. So it was my aim, and it was my story, and I shown her in 4, I think, points of her life. So she was describing her relationship with Jan and with the world, basically, from several point of views. So that was just, the story was about it. And yeah, you asked me about translation, how it does it affect my work?
Yeah, if translation, if translation affects your writing, yeah, and I don't mean necessarily the same play or.
Yeah, well, I think the outcome. Well, of course, the text is translated, and I can't do anything about it because I don't know the languages mostly to which my text is translated. But I really appreciated, as far as I remember, the cooperation with the translator. For example, at the Royal Court Theatre, I was developing. It wasn't like that the text was written and then someone got it and translated it, but we were cooperating. We were developing the text together with Catherine, with my translator, and this perspective of someone who needs things to be clear, who's asking you about basic things like why this character says these words at this moment. It was very helpful for me because I think I'm in many places I'm very much and I'm fighting with this. I'm very much focused on language, on the sounds, and it may blur that something what's behind those words or the subtext may be blurred by these words sometimes. So I think it was the important thing for me to have a partner to talk about what you're writing. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. Miriam, I wanted to ask you about your play that was nominated now for the Redshofer Drama Prize in Austria, which is a pretty important prize. I don't want to talk about the prize. I want to talk about your that you tell us something about your play and about your text and about your writing, about your style, if you want to talk about it, or about your approach to
this project or this playwright has the title, a very long title, Der Mann, der im Brunnen saß und da lag und da war und da war. And in the play there is basically a man who is stuck in a well, and a kid crosses by and tries to figure out why this man is down there. and why he does not do anything to get out of it. And the text is about this whole great topic in South Tyrol, or it's maybe more a discussion on which minority you take part of, because you can identify yourself as German or as Italian, but it's not really possible to be both. And I try in this play to figure out why no one is really talking about this, and why this historical situation is still go on, and it's not stopping, and that's kind of strange for me. And I think that this is a part of my writing, that I work a lot with this identity policy and how this is changing the everyday life. And so I can try, or I work with figures and how they are changing through this identity.
I would bridge your answer to Michaela, because I found very interesting the way how your story, and could you tell us, please? So in 2013, you founded an alternative theater with director Julia Razusova, for which you wrote 5 plays so far, or more? Are there more?
I think 6 already, or 7.
6 already. And among these plays was the play Single Radicals, which was also selected for the symposium and was translated into German. And do you want to tell us about your project and your theater and the needs? Why you had to do a theater? Isn't there enough theater, or aren't there enough theaters?
No, it was like we were studying in Bratislava, but we are both with Julia from Prešov, from east of Slovakia. And after we finished this Academy of Performing Arts, we decided to move back to our hometown. It's the third biggest town in Slovakia, called Prešov. And it was always kind of alternative city with people who like to go to theater. Many musician groups are from Prešov, and is a lot of club life and kind of alternative life. Many subcultures live together, and we decided to move back. And Prešov is a city where it's not a lot of work, so we decided we are going to give a work to people and ask actors who are from east of Slovakia to come back home and to rehearse some plays, some contemporary plays that are about also this periphery against big cities and this kind of stuff. And, everything is moving. Like this theater is also after 7 years changing. We still don't have our own theater space. We always rent a place where we can play. So it's very difficult to make this theater in production.
Mm-hmm.
But we make one play every year.
Mm-hmm. And does it work? Can you live from theater? Can you from
this
do you
one
have a job? And this is then please start, and then please it's for everyone.
Like from from our own alternative theater, we cannot live. It's really, when we were starting, we had so small grants for it that most of people were doing it for free only to make it, and it wasn't goal to live from it. We do another jobs to live from. But
so you have other, like you do other projects, or do you have? Mm-hmm.
This is really only something like on the top of your activities in the year, that once a year you can make theater as you want to.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Miriam? What about you, Anna, Aga? How are you?
Well,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm also not making a lot of money out of the theater. So, well, I am writing TV series, more like soap opera ones, I must admit, just to, support myself. So now well, 2 projects I was involved in are finished right now, and I'm starting to do the new one. But also I've started, in this period between March and now, I got some grants, and one important one for me, which is about which can help me to write an opera libretto, which I always wanted to do. And yeah, surprisingly, coronavirus gave me this opportunity to do it. And I'm developing the libretto with the English director, Joseph Alford. So I have this, I've always, when I think about my my life, I always had to combine this work, which allows you to make money with writing. So not much has changed. Alexandra, did we lose you? It's still, the picture is still.
I think she's gone again.
No,
I'm here. I don't know. Sorry, it's my internet, I think. I got you until, I wanted to say, and I think we all know what you say. I mean, it's a reality for most of us.
Yeah.
What about you, Aga?
Well, I guess I'm a bit of a third wheel here because it is different to be a translator and to be a playwright. I think if you only do literary translations, then it's essentially the same as you guys, because if you only live of such projects, then, and these projects are now all either gone or delayed, definitely, then there isn't much that you can translate, right? I mean, the problem is that I think a lot of translators now have a lot of time on their hands, but there are no projects to fill those hands. And I heard from a couple of friends. So I know that some of my friends who translate theater mostly, that they now turn to books because people write a lot of books right now. So that sounds like a reasonable business now, but in my case, I will always have the legal stuff, and so I did feel the first lockdown because of the courts, but right now it's all good. But of course, I do miss my literary projects, which at the moment there are none.
I don't think that you are at all a third wheel, because I think what we describe here, it's similar ways of living and of finding strategies to do what we need to do and what we like to do. And I think in this sense we are pretty similar in approaches. What about you, Miriam?
Yeah, I think for me it's just totally the same. I have another job, so I'm not just a writer. Yeah, but I think it's important to have another job. I think there's a bit this Virginia Woolf moment. So you have your room and your money and you can write, and it's allowed to write then. So I think it's very important for me at this moment right now.
Okay, thank you all for these answers, and for I would continue now with.
I think Michaela didn't get a chance. Or
Michaela.
That's the truth.
Yeah, she started with, or am I?
Oh, right.
But do you still want to say something, Michaela? Or?
I also write some other stuff to be able to write plays. So I write sitcoms, so but for internet TV.
But I also, in a sense, this idea. I have also. I do a part-time job. I work in a museum, but it's I think this idea that it sounds like we have to excuse ourselves, that we have like we do other stuff in order to write, and I think that this is just like it's a condition of the world we are living in. So it's not, in a way, it's like I try to see also the sorry.
There's no other, solution. It's like,
yeah, and I think I'm trying to be like to use this as a positive in an optimistic way, and to think like if you do other stuff, then your mind is functions also on other frequencies, and then maybe you can bring this experience then in writing, or that it creates some dynamic, this divided life. I hope so. And talking about this, I wanted to ask you all about your writing routines. I thought Miriam, Aga, Anna, Michaela. Do you have writing routines? Did you have writing routines before the lockdown? And also, if they changed during the lockdown, and how they did.
I don't really have a routine, I would say. I try to write every day, and I get up really early because I like to write in the morning when everyone is asleep. So I have my time, or I don't know. I like.
So what means really early? At 6 or at 4?
At least at 6, I would say. Okay. It depends always on what I did yesterday, but mostly, 5 or 6. And it changed on the first lockdown, because that was, for me, the first lockdown was a good time. I had a lot of time and I could just write. I didn't work, and I felt for the first time free as a writer, because I had also the possibility to be just a writer. I mean, in the second lockdown, it's another situation, but I really enjoyed that part of it.
And why is it different in the second lockdown?
Yeah, this time I have to work, just basically. And I think that the first lockdown was like freezing everything. Mm-hmm. And no one was moving, and now it's like everyone is waiting, but you're just moving. So because now we know, okay, we have to live with this situation. And in the first lockdown, I think we thought that it will pass away after a few months, or I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I see what you. I feel the same. Yeah. That the first was a little bit more like, now we have the time to do what we always dreamed of, and just that. And now the second one is more like, but like the time in between the two lockdowns was not so fun, and who knows what's coming afterwards. So it's like I feel also like there is a bigger pressure now. Aga, how are you told us a little bit about you in when I mean work now, I mean
so the lockdown is different, like I said, at this time, because I feel you guys, like the first lockdown was amazing. I got to read so much. So at the end of the day, it's just essentially scrambled eggs in my head, and I really don't feel like reading a book, which is a shame. So I did enjoy the first lockdown, like Miriam said, and like you, Alexandra, said. But coming back to the original question about the routine, I do not wake up at 4. But I do have the routine in the sense that I like what I do. So whenever I get a text that that I enjoy, or even if I don't really enjoy it, but I know that I have to do it, I just do it, and I'm the one sitting and typing, and at some point I realize it's almost midnight and I haven't eaten anything. So I'm this type of person, yeah, so I don't like breaks because I think breaks always break the flow. And I'm also, because I don't know if you know, but there are two types of translators when it comes to literary text. There are those who read the entire thing and then start translating, and there are those who just start translating without reading the whole thing. And I find it always very interesting who is which, and I'm the one who never reads the thing because I want to be surprised. And then of course you can imagine what happens. What happens is that you get to the like kind of a breaking point in the whole thing, and you realize you've been using the wrong word the entire time or something, so you need to go back. But I find it refreshing because in that sense, I mean, I kind of make myself see different interpretations, or you know, that maybe I've read it the way I wouldn't have, or maybe I've written it the way I wouldn't have written it had I known the ending. So I actually enjoy this process, being kind of a surprise what happens next and what will happen in the end.
I like very much this idea of of writing and reading, like, and then translating as a process of actually rewriting. While
yeah, because
reading.
I think like the reason why I do it, I mean, I guess I'm just also this character, but another reason is I think, you know, translator is always both the reader and the author. So that's why I don't really want to read the whole thing, because at first I want to be just a reader. And no reading is more careful than when you translate it. So I read it very, very carefully into like translating and so writing at the same time. So I'm very careful about what I'm reading. But then at some point I've read the whole thing. I know the story. I think I know what the goal was, so I can kind of change my role and put on my author's glove and do something else. So that's my idea, and I really do hope that it works.
Anna, do you have similar writing routines as your translator in German?
Well, I must admit, most of the time I'm procrastinating when I, you know, and it consumes like half of my life. So, and the pity with this lockdown is that I'm procrastinating outdoors mostly. So I'm doing, you know, physical activities. I love to walk and just think freely, or to go to bike, or to go to some mountain areas in Poland. And I think it's writing is quite, in my experience, it's quite, I do it quite fast when I know what I want to write. But this process of thinking, putting down your ideas with just, you know, one line, it takes a lot of time. So now when I'm, you know, closed in this cell of my flat, well, it's a problem. But on the other hand, I'm sitting in front of my desk at the moment, which I haven't done for really months or even years. So I was, you know, always writing in my bed, then going out, thinking about what I'm going to write. But now I must tell you, I have this discipline. So each evening, I'm not an early bird. I'm not, you know, working in the mornings. So each evening, like for 2 weeks, I'm sitting in front of my desk, which is okay. And I'm happy you said this thing about the lockdown, because it was same thing for me. I was like, who gave me this present of this free time so I don't have to be stressed of a TV work nor the theater, because I was working as a dramaturg in a theater, like it was my full-time job. So I was well overwhelmed with work, and I didn't have to wake up, you know, in the morning and to go anywhere. So it was, and I wrote something, and I was really happy about it, because yeah. And then I looked at my account and I wasn't so happy. Yeah, thank you.
What's next?
for me, it's like I have a small daughter. Is 4 years now, 4.5 years, and I was for 3 years with her at home, but always like all the time working. And during that time, I had to make some really routine for me to be able to play with kids during the day and write early in the morning. As Miriam told, 4 o'clock is the best hour to start, and with a strong coffee until everyone is asleep, you can write maybe till 8 o'clock. And like my daughter started to visit school, kindergarten in September 2019, and lockdown started in March. So between September and March, I was procrastinating in a proper time between 8 and 3 o'clock, and working in more lazy tempo. But during lockdown, I went back to the routine from this my mother holiday, and it's really good in one way that I try to spend time by computer only when I'm writing, because you can prepare everything what you want to write during nice long walks and on bicycle, and only with your diary, and then you go to computer for 4 hours and you can write more. As sometimes when I'm sitting 10 hours by computer, I'm mostly reading news.
But and in general, like it's too short our time today to have like a conclusion. We didn't even reach, but just like as an idea. So in which way did this virus so far and the lockdowns change your life? I mean, on the one hand, it gave us time and space, or interior, closed space, but still space in a way. And in the other way, it creates a kind of pressure, or I don't know, what do you feel about it? Or, I mean, it's clearly that for everyone it's difficult, and but I'm asking about, so for writing, how did this affect the writing? Or I have my names Anna, Michaela, Miriam.
I don't know if it changed my writing. It gave me, because as I told you, there were more, I mean, it's an institutional thing that many like competitions or grant competitions were launched, and it gave the writers who, well, no one cared for them before, and this crisis like underlined this problem. So we don't have, money and opportunity to work if the institution will not help us. So I think there are some triggers for me that this I was invited to some projects which I weren't invited before because they didn't exist. So that's the only thing which changed, I think. And in more general, on more general level, I don't know if you have this as well. Well, of course, many people had that they started to dream about moving out from the city, the big city, to some more natural spaces. And it was my experience as well. So I went back to my hometown for a while, for a couple of months. I was like traveling between Warsaw and Sopot, Gdańsk. Sopot, more like Sopot. It's a city close to Gdańsk. And well, I thought that maybe it may be a change in future, so you can work remotely from wherever you wish if you're a writer. Yeah.
For me, I have this feeling that I cannot plan too much for theater for next year. I don't know if some theater will want a new play, because, for example, this 3 plays that I have staged I have had staged this year. They are all moving in. They are staged with a delay of 6 months or something like that. So I don't know what will be next year if someone will want some play. But during first lockdown, I focused more on this internet TV series, and we like all TVs didn't work because they couldn't make their series, but we were working all the time because we did some kind of quarantine series of our sitcom, and it was easy because it like low budget sitcom, so we had 2 actors on Skype talking, and it was very actual, and it was for me similar to contemporary theater in some way, because we were in a very short time when I wrote something, it was on this internet TV, and it was very actual, and people were very good reacting on it. So this is also space for writing.
Yeah, I also think there's a difference in my work right now, because usually I live in Austria and Italy, so I'm in several projects in both, and normally I travel a lot, but right now I have to choose a country or a city or a place where I'm living, and I cannot travel, and this is kind of the first time in my life that I'm really feeling these borders of Europe, or they're getting real right now, and I think this changed my mind a bit. This is one side, and the other side is this scholarship jungle that I'm feeling like in. There are a lot of COVID scholarships out there, but it's like I'm a young artist, and for the most scholarships you have to have had worked a lot of years as an artist, and so I don't fit in the most scholarships, and this gave me a bit the feeling that I'm not an artist or I'm not a writer, and I think that that's not good. That's not healthy, and this reflects on my work right now.
Yeah, I also felt the presence of the borders all of a sudden, which was quite shocking. I mean, I'm way too young to know what borders really are. And so I feel you, Miriam, because I also had the feeling that all of a sudden we really need to choose, like we really need to make up our minds. Also, when my thought, like all those thoughts also regarding citizenship and things like that, like it struck me that all of a sudden it's there. But but coming back to the process, to the writing process, I mean, I had a lot of time, and so I went back to translating poetry, which is something that I did for the longest of time, and then all of a sudden I stopped having time, because for poetry it's just completely different, because you work with poems that are usually short, so you don't really have the flow. It's more of it's a very precise work. It's more like you need to really get into one poem and really get the feeling and really find this one word that you need, and it cannot be any other word. It needs to be this word, and then when you found it, you can move on to the next poem. So I don't usually have time for this, and I went back to that, and I hope not to lose it when things go back to normal, because it's actually gives me a lot of peace of mind, and it also kind of forces me to do what you guys, I think Anna especially, and I think all of you said it, that the creative process also mostly happens on a bike or during the walks or in the mountains, because I don't need that in most cases. So of course sometimes I'm looking for the right word, but if it's just a word or if just a phrase, it will just come to me. But if I'm really working on poetry, like I need it to happen faster. So because otherwise you can't move on, like you can't just move to this next thing, because it completely breaks your flow and it completely throws you off. And so I learned to appreciate the time outside, and the time that I don't spend in front of the computer, and that the time done thinking, just staring at a tree, is actually much more productive than the time I spend staring at the screen. I really hope it will stay with me even after the whole COVID crisis, because way too many otherwise there are way too many stimuli coming from the screens and from the technology, and it's actually not very supportive of the creative work, I think.
Talking about the future, and like you said, when we will come back to normal, and I'm asking myself if there will be what normality is afterwards. But I was wanting to end our discussion with, we still have some moments, but I wanted to end it in try to have at least a positive vibe about it, and about our, I don't know, about our expectations about the future. And here I wanted to make some place for each of you to, maybe you want to say about things that make you optimistic about the future, or ways of adhesion. Yesterday we talked with some of the authors about different projects that exist and different ways that artists come together, female, non-female, doesn't matter, but just as coming together as a movement of being not united, but standing together, like in hard times. And maybe I thought maybe Miriam, you can start with telling us about Stammtisch.
I'm part of the Autorinnendaseins from Vienna. We meet us at the Cosmos Theater in Vienna, and it's kind of a platform or a space for women where we talk about our playwrights, where we talk about our experience, and it's just open for everything. So if you have problems, or you need to talk about something about the theater, then this is the place to go. And we have several projects. For example, we worked on the Mindeststandards für ein besseres Theater. That's kind of a list.
So the minimum wage, like it's the minimum wage. Sorry for interrupting you. The minimum wage for
for a better theater, for theater we are dreaming of, and it's just it's just kind of a list of things we want to realize in the theater field. And the basic is that we want, or we need, more women, and more actresses, more writers, just everything about that. And for me, it's very important to be also a part of a project, because it's not just a place where you meet or you get in touch with other people. It's also a place where I felt for the first time this way, that I'm not the only one struggling out there with my work as a writer, that we are all doing kind of the same.
Are there any other ideas, or someone who wants to, any other movements or groups or that we should know about? Okay, but this, I would keep this open. So if there are, yesterday Katharina Schlender talked about Facebook group for German if there are, what is going on in Poland?
We lost you for a while, so I didn't.
I was asking Anna, how is it in your country now, and with all the tensions, and do you feel any change? Do you feel any adhesive, any coming together of the artists standing together?
Well, not
did
really.
Something change in the last months?
Mm-hmm. Well, there was nothing happened, like the Facebook group or something like this, but definitely there is a discussion, because there is no law. So if you're a freelancer, you you don't have anything at the moment. If you're not employed in some, I don't know, theater company, you're lost. So I hope it will have some impact on creating or pushing the Ministry of Culture to do something like, creating some rules and laws for us so we can associate, for example. And then if you pay some, what's the word? So when it's not about grants and it's not about scholarships, but it's about something which will make you feel safe. So like in, for example, France, you can be associated, and then you have, if you lose your job for a moment, if you don't do anything for a moment, then you can take some money, like from this common money, So I hope it will change. Yeah, it's nothing romantic is going on, but this, we are close to the ground, but it's okay, I think. And this big crisis may make it faster, this change.
I also think that Poland has a big problem because I don't think that culture is very highly regarded, which is of course still reminds of communist times, and when it was kind of rooted out, and it has never really become again what it used to be. So I think Austria in this regard, I mean, of course the artists are like it's not what it should be still, and of course the government is pissing us all off, but Austria is seriously much better off when it comes to, like Anna said, it's not only about the money, but it's just about a sense of solidarity. There is really someone who wants to listen to us. There is really someone who wants to read us. I think it does help a lot. It's not only a status thing. It's just a general presence in the society. I think this is what lacks in Poland. This is the biggest problem.
Yeah. And I think, of course, it's we can blame the government, but I think also the artists for last 30 years, they didn't pay attention to this problem. So everyone was focused on himself, herself, and we didn't united. We weren't united, and that's why no one cares about us. So maybe, hopefully, it will change as well. Our view, artists' view.
We still have some minutes. I wanted to ask you, we won't manage to do all the questions that I still had for you, but maybe something that combines the future, the present, and the past. What would you tell your younger you? What would you tell your grandma? What would you tell your daughter or daughters? Freestyle, who wants to begin?
I would tell my younger self, don't be afraid. And it will be better when you will be older. It will be all, everything will be clearer, and listen to your instincts, follow them. So that's my part.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
I think I would tell all three of them that art is possible also on the countryside, and it's important that art is also there and not just in the city. I think that's mentioned for all three of them.
Very good. Thank you, Miriam.
I think I would just, and I know I will at some point probably tell my daughter, it's so important for me that I think women should support women, and I think it's also important to give girls this feeling that they can really, like, I know it's this kind of an inspirational quote on the internet, like, you can do whatever you want to do, but the fact is you can. And I do think that there are still, especially, not that much maybe in European countries, but I think still in many countries there's really a problem with young women having confidence, or having whatever barriers they have to achieve what they want to do, and also in art. And then there are those parents who tell you that you shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't also do anything artistic because you will starve on the street, and whatever. So I think it's important, and I will definitely try to give my daughter the confidence to do whatever she wants to do, regardless of if it's art or if it's something else, but to try and just do it.
Nicely put. Thank you. And Michaela, do you have any message for the future or for the past?
I already give her messages every evening before sleeping, and it's very interesting discussions we had together. But what is most important for me is to tell her to care about her soul and her inner voice, and listen it, and make it good, and to be a good human, to be a human to each other.
On this very emotional note, I want to thank all of you for this conversation today. It was very pleasant, and I hope it gave us all a feeling of being together and not being alone, isolated. And I want to thank also Karl Börner and Martina for the technical support. Almost excellent, but it was my fault because for one interruption tonight. I want to thank then Martina and Bernard for thinking about this project and organizing it, and thinking about me and inviting me as a moderator for these discussions. And also we want to thank Cosmos Theatre for the partnership. And this being said, I wish you all a very good night, and I hope we see each other, meet each other very, very, very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.